Hello, everyone. Thanks for making time to join this session. My name is Alvin. I'm from the BNB Chain team, and I handle business operations here. So this year is a big year for BNB Chain, right? We are, we are the largest chain today. I'll show some of the stats later, but what's really exciting this year is we are scaling up the architecture of BNB Chain to usher in the next billion users, right? But before that, let me talk a little bit about BNB Chain. Today's topic is about why you should be using BAS, which is the short form for BSC Application Sidechain. I'll be dealing more with the technical terms later. But one thing to note is that BNB Chain today, is an exciting universe of applications beyond DeFi, right? I say beyond DeFi because most people would be, familiar with like pancake swaps, the DEXs, and so on. And what is really important is as we look at Web 2 coming onto Web 3, when we look at the mass users coming onto the Web 3 and blockchain world, it's really true all these applications that you see here, right? Obviously, it's starting with a lot of games that you see here, but it's not just games. You have things like Move to Earn. Soon you have concepts like Learn to Earn. You have metaverse events, and metaverse is becoming really, really big. I talk to projects every single day, and we do see a huge increase in number of, not just increase in the number of metaverse projects that are coming up, but also the innovation that's happening within these projects is fascinating. So we have this exciting universe of applications that are already on the blockchain and more coming in, right? We are not even talking about the big games. The big games that have millions of users or tens of millions of users, they're not even on the blockchain yet. And when they come on board, right, that is a pivotal moment where we need to ask ourselves, are today's blockchains, are today's L1s or even L2s, are they ready to actually accept this incoming flow of people? So if we look at the stats today, BNB Chain, we have, I think on average daily, we have about 1.5 million daily active users. At the peak, right, at the all-time high, which was around, I think, November last year, we peaked about 2.2 million daily active users. Now, this is a huge number, right? If you look at any other L1s in the blockchain today, right, most of them are below 1 million daily active users, right? And at that point in time, right, at 2.2 million, we know there was a little bit of congestion. And when we think about how do we get the 3, 4, 5 million or the next 1 billion users, that is a problem that we need to solve for, right? Not just on BNB chain, but for every other L1s and blockchains out there. We peaked at around 16 million transactions, again, huge number. Today, on average daily, we do about, say, 5 to 6 million daily transactions as well. And you can see on the right side, right? This is the chart by Nansen about a few weeks ago. And we command a huge proportion. We are the largest in terms of number of transactions. But yet again, we are not satisfied, right? We don't want to stop here because our goal has never been just about this, 16 million peak transactions. It's about a lot more. And not just that, then we have 1,300 applications. It's going to grow to 2,000, 3,000, 10,000. Again, how do we accommodate, right, this huge influx of transactions and users that's going to come in? All right. So there is a question here. I'm just going to answer some of the questions as we go along, since the chat is going to go all the way up. What is BNB Chain? That is a good question. So we rebranded from BSC to BNB Chain a while ago, but I want to emphasize that this is more than just a name change, right? So if you look at architecture, which I will show later, BSC remains as the core network, but then we're going to have a lot of other side chains that sits alongside our BSC. Right, so you would have the beacon chain, which is our BEP2 chain, and then we have the main BSC chain, and then there'll be a lot of side chains. So BSC remains as the name for the main chain that we're talking about, but the overall architecture, the entire network of chains that we have will become something called BNB chain. So it's really the whole ecosystem of chains that we have that we call BNB chain. We talked about the problems, and it's not just BNB chain, right? In fact, we take pride that BNB chain is the only network today, only L1 network that has not had a downtime before. But yes, we did have our congestion periods. If you look at all these news articles, Solana, suffers network instability, and that's still happening, right? We have Polygon, Cardano, Avalanche, even BNB chain. Like I said, there are periods of congestion that happens. This is not just one chain's problem. This is in the entire industry. So how do we actually solve this, right? I was listening to a podcast, and they talked about vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. Right, in vertical scaling, I mean, you can optimize a blockchain right? A lot more, but how much more, right? Maybe from 1 million users to 2 million users, but what happens after that? Because you're going to get the next billion users in. So the way we think about it is, we have to do some of the vertical scaling, but more importantly, we need to do horizontal scaling, which means allowing different projects, right, to scale alongside with us with their own sidechains. And this is what we are proposing in this diagram, right? I talked about BNB chain now being a network and ecosystem of chains. As you can see in this diagram here, there are a lot of chains here. So we have the beacon chain at the top. We have the BSC, which you are very familiar with, where all the dApps you're using is there in the center. And then on the right side is what we're going to roll out first, right? Something called BAS, right, which stands for BSC Application Sidechain. And we're going to have two kinds of application sidechains. One that is proof of stake on the right side. And phase 2, we will also release a ZK Rock application sidechain, which you see on the left. But the focus for today is more on the POS sidechains, because that's what we have in the testnet right now. You can see the specs on the right of this. So this would be, again, there are two types of consensus mechanism. It's EVM, it's configurable validator sets. So some of you may be happy to hear that, because it depends on how many validators you want. You could have 3, 5, 7, 9. It's up to you to decide. And you can invite, right, your investors, your investment partners, or other strategic partners to come in and be part of a validator set. In terms of throughput, so TPS, I know the industry doesn't talk too much about TPS these days, but it's going to be about 5,000 plus. Gas fees is custom. You can have it as low as 0. It's up to you. We usually wouldn't recommend 0. Otherwise, a lot of bots will start to spam the network. But this is entirely up to you. And what's the most important, I think, in every project that I talk to, when I talk to them about this gas token, they are, always very happy to hear that you can finally have your own gas token, right? And I'll explain a bit on why this is important later. But it adds so much more flexibility in how you think about your token design, your token utilities for the entire ecosystem of your platform, right? And finally, things like wallets, infrastructure, because this is an EVM chain, you can almost think of BAS as a mini BSC. What it means is that this infra that supports BSC today can also be supporting wallets, can be supporting BAS. So very flexible, very easy to deploy the existing infrastructure onto BAS to support your application. Right, so I'm going to maybe distill it down to these 3 main advantages. But one thing I want to say is, this BAS is meant for large decentralized applications. So if you are an application that's going to look at, a projected 100K daily active users, BAS is definitely for you, right? The first advantage is that you can have your own blockchain, right? You can have your own gas token. This is huge, right? For one reason, because of scalability and what I would call more consistent performance, right? There are always times when an application that you can't control, it could be other applications on the blockchain that is taking up all the bandwidth, right? And that's when congestion happens. But when you have your own blockchain, that doesn't happen, right? You are not at the mercy of other apps. The other thing is, we mentioned, if you have a gas token, there's a lot more flexibility in your token utility. So imagine this, I was just talking of a game and they were just imagining, right? What if you have your own blockchain, your governance token for the game is your gas token, right? You can even have your gamers, right, take part in taking some of the incentives or benefits from the validators fees. There's so much more that we can do, because when you have your own blockchain and gas token, you can start to redesign the tokenomics of your entire platform, and that is huge. The second benefit is the high TPS and ultra low gas fees. I know we have been hearing our users on BSC saying that, hey, they want lower gas fees, and it's coming right now with BAS, right? And because it's fully EVM compatible, what it means is you will get a great EVM experience, and your users will enjoy the low gas fees and have consistent high performance, right? And never have to complain about the performance of the game ever again. And the third one, this is important, is, you see, games can choose between having your own private blockchain. You can always build your own private chain or your own blockchain. But when you do it as a sidechain alongside BSC, there's huge benefits to this, right? One is that there is a native bridge between BSC and BAS. So with this native breach, it's a lot more secure, a lot more convenient, and a lot more faster to breach tokens and NFTs between both. Now, when you can breach between both, this is where the magic happens, because you are alongside the biggest decentralized world. If you think about the number of daily active users on BSC versus the rest of the L1s, BSC today is the largest by daily active users, right? And we have a constant stream of users coming in from also the biggest centralized exchange in the world. So you effectively are integrated and into part of this ecosystem that's really the largest in the whole decentralized world. And you get to, you think about your listings or your token swaps, or all these things can be done with huge liquidity in BSC, where you can access facilities like PancakeSwap. You can look at, say, NFT marketplaces. You can leverage these NFT marketplaces and the NFT liquidity within them on BSC, and then breach those assets back to the BAS to play the game. So you get best of both worlds. You get big liquidity in BSC, and you get consistent high performance with a lot more token flexibility in BAS itself. So it's really the best of both worlds here. By the way, feel free to put in your questions. I will answer the questions as we go along. So what we get from BAS is not just a blockchain. There are multiple modules that are already built on it, or we're still building on it. So right now we're in testnet phase. Mainnet will be at the end of the month. So I'll go through some of the timelines later. Now with BAS, when you deploy on the sidechain, you're going to get a few things, right? You will have, of course, like the validator sets and the staking UI is already there. There is a blockchain explorer that we're building that is already part of the facilities, right? P2P networks, faucets, bridging, and I would emphasize bridging again, because bridging is so important to be connected to all the liquidity and the infrastructure like marketplaces that are on BSC. And we have seen fair share of hacks and all these things going awry on other sidechains recently. And building bridges is easy, but building a secure bridge is not easy, right? And this is where we have partnered with Scal. We have looked through the documents, the mechanisms. Some of the hacks that we've seen through other bridging incidents will not happen on this, and we're fairly confident, and therefore we brought them on, to build this native bridge between BAS and BSC. And of course, finally, the liquidity in BSC ecosystem that is huge. So if you are interested, you'll see a QR code on the top right. Go for it. That is where you can request for deployment of BAS. And you will be led to this form that you see on the screen here, right? And I think it's interesting to just go through the form and look at what kind of configurations are there in terms of number of validators and so on. That could give you a good sense of what to look out for when you want to deploy your own sidechain on BNB chain. So this is the roadmap, right? In Jan of 2022, when we did our BNB chain kickoff, we actually mentioned the multi-chain roadmap, where we talked about the concept of MetaFi, which is, I think, one of my last slides tonight. We talked about the ability to scale, right, being the most important thing in ushering the next billion users into the Web3 world. And that is truly the vision at BNB Chain. And then in March, right, just 2 months ago, we launched a testnet. And we launched it with Scal, Node.io, and Anchor. So Scal is the native bridge for BAS. Node.io and Anchor are the node providers that will be helping the projects that want to deploy on BAS, right? So you can think of it as almost like a platform as a service or blockchain as a service that Node.io and Anchor are providing. So it depends on you. You can build your own BAS, or you can go through this blockchain as a service, whichever is better for you, right? Depending on whether you have the headcount and the skill sets required to do the DevOps maintenance and security. Then in May, which is earlier this month, actually it's in April, which is last month, we launched our testnet. In March, we launched the testnet. In May, which is the end of this month, we're going to launch the mainnet. So that will be exciting. I'm really very excitedly looking forward to that. I think it will happen probably on the last day of this month, where we will be releasing a few really cool announcements. Of course, the mainnet launch would be the big one. We will also be announcing some of the pilot projects that have already started building on the testnet. In fact, if you go on the track on bnbchainlink.org, you'll be able to see some of the testnets that have been launched on BAS. That could give you a clue of what projects are actually launching on our sidechains, right? And then there'll be a few more other programs alongside BAS that will be announced as well. So look out for it the end of this month. Now, then in June, we are going to roll out the second phase of the BAS sidechain, and that will be the ZK rollup solutions. So the testnet for that will be out in June, and then in July, we will launch the mainnet. So it's apparent over here, it's going to be an exciting lineup of events that's going to happen right from now all the way to July. We are working really, really hard to make sure that all these things materialize. And I think so far, since the timelines we've promised since the start of the year, we have actually been actualizing them, realizing them, to make sure that our users, right, our projects actually get the best benefits in time. This is the BNB Chainlist that I was talking about. So you can go to this site today. It's live, right? And just take a look at some of the testnets. Make sure you toggle the testnet toggle at the top, and you can see what are some of the testnets that are available there. Here you will see, of course, there's a BSC mainnet and BSC testnet. But then on the bottom, right, you see Node-REAL and Anchor building up testnets as well. So if you are curious as to how the testnet works, you can even go to these testnets and even deploy your own project just to take a look. Not just that, there are bridges available as well. So if you, let me see. Yep. So you can go to Salicy Bridge. You can see over here that you can actually start testing out bridging of assets between say BAS Aries testnet to say the BSC testnet, right? And there is a faucet for you to actually get your Aries tokens from the Aries BAS as well. So everything is in our documents. Feel free to go take a look. But this is really exciting because this is not something that we're talking about in the future. I just want to say that it is live, right? You can go to the faucets, take some of the gas tokens, try bridging of the tokens, and not just tokens, bridging of NFTs. We've been testing, and that's almost ready. So really excited that there will be a first game that will be launching. I'll talk about it soon. And again, this is not just a technology that's going to happen in the future. There are actually games that will be launching at the end of this month on the BAS. And this is the one. So one of the first pilots is this game called Meta Apes. If you missed the live AMA session, which happened, I think 1 or 2 nights ago, feel free to go. I think on Anchor's Twitter, you should be able to find it. So this is a simulation game. It's inspired, I think, in one of the most successful Web2 mobile games as well. And in that AMA session, we actually went through, how the gameplay looks like, and more importantly, how the assets, which is the tokens and the NFTs, and the interaction between on-chain and off-chain, and between BAS and BSC were all happening. And you'll see from the demo that it's really, really smooth, right? It's not just smooth, it's actually pretty convenient. Like when you look at it, you wouldn't even know that you were on a sidechain itself, right? And that's the beauty of it, because the experience is pretty seamless. And also the time taken to do all this bridging and moving assets from off-chain to on-chain, the experience has been not just smooth but also fast. So highly recommend all of you to take a look at it. But having gone through that AMA, having looked through all the technology that's happening on this BAS, I'm very, very confident, right, that many of the big decentralized applications are going to have a great time in blockchain, and they're going to come, right, and finally be able to deploy. Because I know the biggest concerns for many Web2 companies is really the experience on the blockchain and the finality time, the experience that the users are going to get. But with BAS, this is going to change. Right. Someone asked about custom blockchains. So in a way, these are side chains that are pretty standardized in a way, right? The framework will be similar, whether it's the TPS or they are kind of in a standardized side chains. You can almost consider it. I mean, with Avalanche, you have Avalanche subnets. Polygon has launched supernets as well, and then with us, we have BAS. And all these sidechain solutions are pretty standard across the different sidechains. They can be minimal customization, but most of them will be quite similar. Right. So why are we doing this? I think it's important to come back to the bigger picture, right? This is one of my last slides. And it's important to remember what we're going for, right? Remember what the bigger vision is. And at the start of the year, we talked about this future called the MetaFi future, where DeFi, gaming, metaverse, NFTs, right? They may have started as very individual and segregated components, but they're all going to come together, right? So imagine you go into a metaverse, right? You could play games in the metaverse. You could actually, click on one of the artwork in the art gallery, and with one click you can buy it, right, as an NFT, and then enable all these DeFi mechanisms, right, to power everything that you're doing in these metaverses. This will be huge, right? And this is already happening in some ways. But what we're seeing is many of these projects are getting more and more innovative. The mechanisms, the model they have, the tokenomics within these worlds are becoming bigger and bigger. And that means, there's going to be a lot more things that we can do there. There's going to be a lot more people that's going to come into the Web3 world. But in order to support this kind of large decentralized applications, again, scaling is the key. Today, if you were to get, I remember this was a tweet from somewhere, if you were to get like a Call of Duty or one of the most successful games, just one game, right, on the Web2 world, on the Web3, no L1 today can actually support that. But with this kind of BAS, with these sidechain technologies, we can start to welcome many of these large applications to come on the blockchain world. And that's huge because it benefits the users. As a gamer, I want to be able to own my NFTs. And all these benefits that come with Web3 are now able, right, to actualize for some of the biggest applications in Web2. So this is why we are really excited to roll out the BNB chain architecture. Like I mentioned, it's not just a rebrand. It's really the entire change of the architecture to welcome this bigger future for MetaFi. Right. That is really one of my last slides. I wanted to keep it short and leave it for Q&As. If you have any questions, feel free to fill it in. But remember to follow us on Twitter, Discord, especially for developers. We are pretty active in Discord, so feel free to come in and give your comments or ask your questions. We're on YouTube and Telegram as well. Feel free to follow us. So I'm just going to stay on for a while and see if there are any kind of questions that you have, and I'm happy to answer them. Thanks, Quizon, for your question. So the question is, if you can set gas to 0, but can you estimate actual gas cost per transaction? Yes, you can. So basically, you can do this on BSC, right? And like I mentioned, you can think of BAS as a mini BSC. And in that way, anything that you can do in the EVM architecture, basically, or on BSC, you can do it on BAS as well. So you can definitely estimate, the actual gas cost as well. So the current gas cost in dollars, well, if you're talking about BSC, it's definitely under $1, right? Usually it's like 30, 40 cents. It depends, of course, on the complexity, right? Whether it's a swap or other transactions and so on. But for BAS, it's different. BAS allows flexibility for the project or the sidechain owner to be able to customize it, right? So you can have it, at 40 cents, 20 cents, 10 cents. You can have it to near 0. I suppose most of the projects will have it at near 0, but yet, keeping a bar above 0 so that, again, we prevent all these bots from coming in. Does BAS use Solidity? So instead of saying whether it uses or not, again, just want to stress, it's EVM. Think of it as a mini BSC. Anything that works on BSC, works on BAS. And that is why it has been easy for us to, relatively easy for us to kind of integrate in, wallet services, infrastructural services that are already on BSC, on BAS today. Is it proof of stake? Yes, it is. So it uses exactly the same consensus mechanism as BSC. which I think is called Palia consensus. So you can actually go take a look in the BAS or BSC docs. But it uses the same consensus mechanism as BSC. The tech docs are, by the way, they are out. So if you just search for BNB chain BAS tech docs, actually let me just do it here maybe. So you just search for BNB chain BSC tech docs. So we recently did kind of a revamp of our BNB chain documentation. And so here you can see our BSC Application Sidechain, right? And you can read more about some of this stuff. Now, if you want more detailed documentation, you can click on the Anchor documentation as well. As I mentioned, there are two providers here that provides this blockchain as a service. And it only takes them a few hours to help you set it up. And they will do like DevOps maintenance and everything for you. So if you click on, say, the Anchor docs, then you can, there is a much deeper, more in-depth explanation of BAS, how to launch BAS, the staking, the security, and so on. Yep. Right. So another question, let me just actually go back. Yep. I'm just going to come back to this slide first. Sorry, there was a request to post this in the chat. Let me. Actually, I have no permission to put it in the chat. I'm just going to put it in a private chat and hope somebody posts it in the comments. Cool. So coming back, there's a question: why would I want to use this, over Polygon or the rest? Well, I'm not sure if you are referring to, say, Polygon supernets, or you're talking about Polygon itself. Well, there are a few reasons, and again, like we tend not to say like this is good, this is not good, and so on, right? But you got to understand what you're going for. You've got to understand what you need, right? Having your own sidechain is very different from building on, say, a blockchain where hundreds of other apps are on it, right? Because it depends on how many active users you're gonna get. If you have maybe less than 10,000 daily active users, that's fine, right? You can just build on a blockchain. Whether it's BNB Chain or Avalanche or Polygon, of course, there are differences there as well. But if you are a large decentralized application, you don't want to be at the mercy of other applications when congestion happens, right? You want to have some control over your own blockchain, and that's what matters. The other thing is, there's much more flexibility and advantages when you have your own blockchain as well. Like I've mentioned, token utilities, the ability to customize things like your gas fees and so on. Inviting your partners to be validators, right? These are important. So I think the first question to ask is really not about which chain it is, but do you actually need a sidechain? Do you need a blockchain by yourself, right? And after that, then compare the pros and cons between the chains. Like I mentioned, BNB chain today, I take pride in saying that we are probably one of the major L1s that have not had a downtime before. We are very, very confident of our ability to deliver. And we are today by far the largest blockchain in terms of transactions and daily active users. So not only that, right, there is a huge ecosystem of support, whether it's the Binance ecosystem, whether it's PancakeSwap, which is the largest DEX. There's so much going on in this ecosystem that you as a project developer or project owner can actually benefit from, right? Whether it's from a liquidity perspective, whether it's from a ready use of a ready base of users that you can attract over to your application. There's so much going on there. Yeah. I'll hang on just to see if there's more questions. And this was the one that I was mentioning, BNB Chainlist. So you can actually come here and see, which are the test nets that have been deployed. So this basically shows and allows you to connect to all the different chains or as part of the BNB chain, multi-chain network. This list will of course continue to grow, right? So how many BAS will there be is one of the most frequent questions. There's going to be a lot, right? There's no limit here. It depends on how many large-scale applications wants to build on our BAS, right? So you could see this list actually growing to, in the next month when we launch some of these pilot applications, you're definitely going to see a few more. And by the end of the year, well, who knows? It could be 20, 30, 50. It depends. But what this allows us to do is really to get some of the biggest applications onto the Web3 world, and that's what I'm excited about. Yep. Cool. I think there are a few more like very, very technical questions. I would suggest all of you to actually read the docs. Here actually would be able to answer some of them. What I find most useful is actually the FAQ, right? So some of the questions that I see in the window can actually be answered here as well. All right, I think that's about it. All right, there's one more, so I'm just going to answer this one last question before we head off. So does NFT marketplaces need to do anything to support sidechain? Very interesting question. So it depends on which NFT, like does the NFT marketplace need to be on a sidechain or not? So for example, in the game that's about to launch, right? And I think most games will think like this. They may have their own in-app marketplace. And for that to happen, like that is fine, right? Because it's the same as deploying on any other EVM, right? Or it could be off-chain as well, depending on how the game wants to do it. But let's say if you want to leverage a bigger NFT marketplace or an IGO platform, most of the time, I think they would choose an NFT marketplace that's on BSC, right? So it need not be on the sidechain itself, because anything that you do with regards to trading, you got to remember the importance of liquidity. So if you are doing IGO, right, do you want to do it on BS or do you want to do it on the larger marketplace on BSC, right, where all the users and NFT traders or gamers are? So my advice is, leverage the huge liquidity that is on BSC. And you'll realize over time with this new BNB chain architecture, with all the BAS, what it means is that BSC as a core network would increasingly become like the DeFi hub for all the applications within BNB chain applications. Because imagine if you have like a move to earn that becomes very big or a game that becomes very big, all these would be on the application side chains. And they would all leverage the big liquidity that's happening in BSC, right? Which is the core network here, where you get like the pancake swaps and all the DEXs and DeFi infra that's going to support all these application side chains. Yep. All right, I think that's about it. Thank you for the very active participation and the many questions. Happy to be here, happy to introduce BAS. Feel free to go to our docs to understand more. And feel free to connect with me on Twitter as well. My alias is here. Thank you so much. See you all. Bye.